Welcome to He Did This to Me, the sports podcast from a father and son who happen to be mostly optimistic Knicks, Jets, and Mets fans. My name is Nick, aka Goody, and with me is my old man, aka the big guy, Noel. And just like his name, all we do is win. Let's get to the show. It's time to begin. The New York Knicks welcomed former friends R.J. Barrett and Emmanuel Quickley into the Garden and sent them packing with an L last Saturday, beating the Raptors 126-100. Then Tuesday, they played their home away from home game and pulled out another victory down the stretch against the Brooklyn Nets 108-103. They are now winners of 4 in a row and are 10-2 since acquiring OG Anunoby. Talk to me, big guy. How we feeling about the Knicks?
Feeling good. I mean, listen, OG, since the OG acquisition, it's been nothing but roses and daffodils. The win against the Raptors was a good one. Obviously, we felt we would get that. We felt we'd get the Brooklyn win too, but that turned out to be a lot more difficult. But the comeback in the waning minutes was rousing and exciting. A lot of fun. Good to see them play that way, especially down the stretch.
Yeah, I mean, I would say the one thorn since we have acquired OG has been the turnovers.
Yeah.
It's obviously extremely frustrating to watch from a fan's point of view, but we're averaging, 16 turnovers a game since the OG trade. It's the worst in the league. We went from being 10th, or actually, no, I think we were in the top 10. I want to say we were like 5th, and now we're 19th. So that's something that I'm not exactly sure what's going on. It's plaguing everybody from Brunson and Julius, all the way down to Hartenstein and Ragu. We got to tighten that up. But yeah, it's nice to see the team step up and get a win, even though they don't play so well throughout the game. That's what good teams do. They don't end up letting those games against those inferior teams end up in L's. And another thing that I think might end up paying dividends down the stretch for us is the fact that we're learning how to win games late. Even if we're learning it against inferior competition, we are learning how to make those big plays at the end of a game and pull out a dub.
No doubt about it. I mean, listen, we've seen many a game with the Knicks to lose games, like both of those games. So the fact that we're able to play a much stronger game, and it starts at the defensive end. I mean, that game against the Nets yesterday, when we started that comeback, it was because of us playing defense, and playing defense the right way. We weren't playing defense against them early on. We let some of these guys get hot, Mikal Bridges or whatever, they were cooking. But then once we started clamping down a little bit, disrupting their rhythm, that made the big difference late. Obviously, you'd prefer if we started that sooner, earlier in the game. But the fact that we were able to come to it in the last 5 to 10 minutes was extraordinary and was very exciting to watch.
Yeah, not going to complain about wins,
No.
especially when the team is rolling the way that they have been recently. Let's talk about Saturday. We had RJ and Quick come into the Garden, their return. RJ had 28 and 4, pretty good efficiency from the floor. Quickly had 12 points as well as 11 assists. What did you think about, seeing them in a Raptors uniform and the overall performance by the Knicks and by those two guys?
I mean, listen, it was a good performance by them, especially RJ early. Not so much in the second half. He had 19 points in the first half, not much in the second half. Somewhat typical. But they both played well. But, I mean, listen, we played better. We are a better team. So we should win that game. And we were able to, disrupt them again in the second half and ended up winning by what, 26 points?
Yeah.
So it was kind of a runaway when it's all said and done. But it was, listen, seeing those guys come back in Raptors uniforms was a little bit of a bummer. But honestly, you get over that bummer really quick when you look at our record since OG's been here. So I'm okay. I'm good. And I'm glad they got their little tribute video, and warm reception from the Garden crowd. That was great. A definite class act. So, listen, I wish them well. I hope they play well up there, except for when they play us.
Yeah, I thought that the overall reception from the crowd was great. It was good for those guys. Quick, it seemed like it really affected. Quick was, affected by the ovation that he got when he was announced. RJ, as we know, you never know what's going on inside of him emotionally because he's always exactly the same. He's basically a robot. But RJ started off and it was like, wow, look at RJ right now. That tomahawk dunk on the baseline. I'm like, I ain't never seen RJ do no shit like that. So
At
RJ
home
definitely,
cooking.
yeah, he definitely came out with the juice. But when it came down to it in the second half, and we put the squeeze on him, pun intended. All of a sudden, he wasn't quite that guy anymore. And OG, I loved what I saw from him both on the offensive and defensive side. He had some good buckets. He had a well-rounded game, 14 points, 7 rebounds. He had 3 block shots in that game. And then I loved watching him guard Scotty Barnes and really, really give him problems because them cats have probably been going at it in practice, and he feels like,
Hmm.
man, he ain't that nice. I lock him up all the time, so it was nice for him, I'm sure, to be able to get to show that to everybody.
Hmm.
OG is continuing to be a little bit more offensive. His handle's a little shaky. When he gets into a place where he kind of needs to be creative, it's a little shaky. But we did see in the game against the Nets a little bit something that I wanted to see was him just go ahead and pull up for that mid range when he can't get all the way to the hole. And he definitely has the ability to knock it down. I think that as he matures and he gets put in those spots more often, he'll just get more comfortable at hitting those types of shots.
No doubt about it. And something else I noticed in the Nets game is that, I think we've been having, well, I know we've been having a lot of turnovers. And Thibs did allude to the fact I saw in one interview where he was talking about that. It is, everything's a little choppy now because they're still getting used to the rotations and substitutions and all that. But I see him doing things a little differently each game. He did a little things differently with the substitution pattern against the Nets last night that I thought went pretty well at times, where he was, with Julius and Brunson being staggered a little bit and just changing it up a little bit yesterday. And I see him trying new things, and I get it. We got to keep trying new things to find what really works and then try to work it going towards the postseason. So, listen, I'm a Thibs guy, and I think he's done a good job and continues to do a good job with the new personnel.
Yeah, the one thing that I would like to see a little bit more is when it comes to the staggering, I'd like to see Ragu and Brunson be staggered a little bit more, where when Brunson is off the floor, maybe Ragu gets a little bit more time with that second unit because at this point he is our second best ball handler slash initiator on the squad. And I will say that at the beginning of the fourth quarter against the Nets, when we had that lineup out there with no Brunson and no Randle, I was very nervous. I was like, yo, if we this could get real ugly real quick. We were already
Mm-hmm.
down 9. And I'm like, come on, man. But you know what? That team and their defense, the way that they turned up the D, is what kind of turned the game around. So
Yes, sir.
sometimes you got to take a step back and realize that, Thibs knows a lot more about basketball than I ever will, and he's with these guys all the time. I can have my opinions, but sometimes you just got to trust the process. And yeah, Thibs has done a very good job of incorporating this new guy, having a new guy come to the team who is a starter, and having 2 guys who played such pivotal roles and leave the team. And that sum coming up to 10-2 after the first 12 games, it's hard to argue with that. The proof is in the pudding.
Absolutely. I mean, and now with everybody talking about, well, add this person or add that piece or add this piece, we have to realize that adding these pieces, it's not always a seamless transition. It takes time. So, we have enough time to figure out if we add anything else, but I kind of don't want to be too disruptive, but I can see how we could listen. Certain players could definitely help us. The Malcolm Brogdons out there and so forth. I think we could make some changes and still adjust, but it will take a period of adjustment. Is my overall point.
Yeah, no doubt. Whenever you bring in somebody new, and the bigger the piece, the more of an adjustment. Typically
Right.
that's what you're looking at. I'm still in if we can get DeJounte, go get DeJounte camp. There's some names that I'd like to stay away from, some others that I'd be interested in. We've detailed those in the last few episodes, so I'm not gonna get too long-winded on that. But our guy Brunson, first
Wow.
Nick since Melo with 30 plus in 5 consecutive games. One of the things that I love about him and the what really made me think about this, I was having a conversation in a group chat. We were talking about Jordan Poole, and I was talking about how he has the worst economy of dribbles of any player in the NBA that I've maybe ever seen, as far as how many dribbles it takes him to get off and do what he wants to do. Brunson, on the flip side, has maybe the best economy of dribbles I've ever seen.
Mm.
Everything is with a purpose. He doesn't just dance around with the ball. It's get to my spot, get to 2 feet, go up with the one, go off one, get a bump, step through, great footwork. He's just the way that he plays the game is so efficient, and it makes the players around him, I think, better because they have an idea of what he's going to do, and they don't
Hmm.
get into a mode where they just stop and watch because everything he does is so succinct and to the point. And the one thing that I thought was interesting in the game against Toronto is that for I think maybe the entire first half, when they were both on the floor, they had RJ guarding your boy Brunson. And I was like,
Yeah.
listen, Brunson, I don't know what bill of goods RJ sold to somebody that he said, yo, man, I'm telling you, I can guard this guy. As soon as I saw that, I was like, okay, all right, feed Brunson. It's time to eat because there is no way that RJ is going to be able to stick with him for an entire game without, first of all, picking up a ton of fouls. Second of all, Brunson is going to get his.
Well, early on in the game, though, Nick, I was like, wait a minute. RJ looked like he was doing a good job defensively on Brunson, but that was fool's gold. But by the time the game was over, you saw Brunson showing what he could do, and RJ couldn't do anything about it. I mean, honestly, greater defenders than RJ have tried to stop Brunson. And listen, we're going to see that the rest of the season, Nick. Where they're going to put size on Brunson. They're going to try to get physical with Brunson. He seems to have been able to push through all of that, and I think he will continue to do so.
That's where a guy like DeJounte, I think, really changes our offensive dynamic and especially how other people can match up against us because most people don't have a ton of guys who can guard somebody on the perimeter like both DeJounte and Brunson. So if you take that
Right.
one kind of specialist that you have and put them on one, the other one's going to go off. As much as I like DiVincenzo's entire floor game, and he's been shooting the ball at an unbelievable clip, he's not the offensive dynamo that either of those players are, especially off the dribble. And so therefore, I think that it'll just make us a lot harder to drive if we had a guy like DeJounte. Next up, let's talk about my guy Julius. Julius had a triple double against the Raptors, his eighth triple double as a Knick, 18 points, 16 rebounds, 10 assists. One of the better floor games you'll see out of him. I'm pretty sure he was 7 of 13 from the floor. Just, very efficient. He realized that they were bringing the doubles. He was getting rid of it quick, and, had a big game. And then last night against the Nets, he had 30 points, 9 rebounds, 7 assists. And I think if you look at like the last 4 minutes of that game, it's what I like to say is the Julius Randle experience because you get to see the full gamut of all the things that we both love. And I'm not going to use the H word, but sometimes get a little bit frustrated with when it comes to our guy, Julius. Around 4 minutes, he gets into the paint, does a great dump off to Precious Achiuwa. He goes up, dunks it with 2 hands. Bang. Great play, Julius. Let's go. Then, with a little over, I think it was like 2 minutes and 21 seconds left, he hits a pull-up three that takes us down from being down 98 to 100 to 101 100. He hits that three, gives the Jalen Brunson, the Jalen Brunson celly on the way back down the floor. And I'm like, let's go, Julius. Huge shot. And it ends up being, in the grand scheme of things, probably one of the 2 or 3 biggest shots of the game.
Mm-hmm.
And then soon after that, we have him dribbling the ball up the floor, as you like to say, nipple high, with a man right in front of him and 2 guards within an arm's length of him. He tries a spin move. Your boy Dennis Smith Jr. rips the ball away and runs down the floor. And it's just like, I just, as he's coming up the floor, I'm screaming, give it up, give it up. And then when he tries to make that spin move in traffic, it's just like, how do you not know he's going to come up and strip you right there? It's so, so frustrating. And then just a little bit later, you know what? Hopefully next week we can talk about another sequence being the best one of the season. Because last week we had a sequence that was the best of the season. This week we have Brunson getting blocked, the ball flying down the court, Josh Hart coming out of nowhere for a huge block. Achiuwa gets a hand on it. Hart gets another hand on it. It gets over to Cam Johnson. He goes up, and your boy, I don't know how OG blocked that shot. He was not in position at all. It just shows how long he is and how he just refused to give up on the play. He blocks the shot. Your boy Josh Hart He saves it. I saw still online. That ball bounced on the line. We got a little bit lucky there. That ball bounced on the
Yeah.
line. It
I
bounced on
thought
the
he
line.
maybe even stepped out. He didn't step out.
He didn't
Shot
step
yard?
out. He didn't step out, but it bounced on the
Ball
baseline
definitely
before he
bounced.
got a
I
hand on
thought
it.
I was calling that in real time, and I was like, I couldn't believe they didn't call it on us, but I was like, okay.
Yeah, we'll take it. But then he grabs the ball, saves it inbound to Julius. Julius flies up the court, give and go with Brunson, right back to him for the two-handed slam. What a sequence. I mean, it had my entire household, going crazy. I'm sure you were feeling it yourself. Talk to me about Julius, man. I love him, but you gotta stop letting him
Hey,
bring the ball up.
right. Julius, yes. I'd prefer he didn't bring the ball up so much. And I hear you. You often say that, Thibs shouldn't let him dribble so much, or the guard should go take the ball from him. Listen, clearly Julius thinks he can do it, and it's not so much, Nick. I don't have a problem with him bringing the ball up. I have a problem with the fact that, and Julius is great. Julius has had a fantastic season, plays well for us. I'm all for that. I don't want him to change any of that. The whole problem I have with him, Nick, is that when he's dribbling the ball, you or I can see too high, and for 4 or 5 seconds before he gives it up, everyone, me, you, every other Knicks fan on earth is already screaming, "Give it up, give it up, give it up." And he just takes too long to give it up. Nick, people are coming right to him. He's facing them. He sees it. There's an open man right there. There's an open man right there. He waits till these guys come right next to him before he decides to react. And that's how, and he might still be dribbling when they get there.
Let me counter that real quick. Do you remember the play in the end of the game, the first game that we got OG, at the end of the game against the Timberwolves, where he was dribbling the ball like the floor and he did like some crossover through traffic and laid kids? That's real tough layup after the crossover in traffic. Yeah. And I was screaming, give it up on that one as well. Okay. This is my thing with Julius, is that I believe to get to that level of basketball, you have to have almost like irrational confidence, okay? And I'm sure that he remembers the times like that Minnesota time more so than he remembers, the game last night. Okay, fine. Let's say that Julius. Okay, let's take Julius out of the equation. So Julius thinks he can dribble up. Let's say that Julius believes he is the best ball handler and the best initiator of the entire team, and that's what he believes. You and I both know that's not true. The thing that drives me nuts is sometimes when he grabs that ball and he starts dribbling it up, there's guards that are next to him that just run up the floor. And I don't understand why they're not running up to him and getting the ball. When Hartenstein gets a rebound, they run up to him and they get the ball. And if they're not, Julius is a 4. It's not like
so what?
And I'm sorry, but if I'm Thibs, I'm showing Julius a low light of all the times he brings the ball up the floor and dribbles the ball off his foot or gets stripped. And I'm saying Julius. And then I'm showing him a highlight of all the times that he gets the ball on the run and ends up finishing. And I'm saying, Julius, when you grab a rebound, find the nearest guard, give it up and run and get it back. And I'm coaching that into him, into the guards and the entire team. But it seems like nobody on the Knicks feels this way at all. It seems like Julius, the guards, and Thibs are all like, hey, Julius, if you get the rebound, go ahead and dribble it up.
Well, I think that Thibs, I think, is a believer in that. First of all, I think basketball, for the most part, and definitely on this team too, I see, is a free-flowing game. Everything is not, it's not like football where everything is set in motion and we are to be militaristic about how we do this. It's a lot like jazz, okay? Things just happen and it's kind of a riff. Now, with Julius, I get it. The guard should come up and take the ball from him. But there's nothing wrong, Nick, where if we want to push the ball up court, Julius, push the ball up court. Fine. There's nothing wrong with Julius pushing the ball up court. The thing that Julius needs to get through his head is, dude, when people are getting close to you, stop dribbling or get rid of the ball. That's not rocket science, Nick. He knows that, and he should know that. And if he has some irrational confidence that makes him think he can do it because he did it in this game, that play, but most of the time, way too often a time, he gets stripped like that. Listen, man, the guy's head is not made of stone. He needs to figure it out. And he's shown the ability to grow, Nick. He's grown from years past to this year. There's no doubt about it.
I can't wait for him to grow. I can't wait for next year for him to grow into that. I need somebody to, I need the coach. Because it's mind numbing. I'm sorry. So let me ask you a question. You're telling me that it's all up to him and that his coach should not tell the
No,
entire
I
team?
think no. This is what I think. I think I honestly think, Nick, Julius Julius is a guy that his head is right. He's definitely grown. He's grown, but I feel like if Tib got at Julius too much about his deficiencies, Julius would take that personally. Julius, I think as a coach, this is just me from the outside thinking out loud. I think as a coach, you can get on Julius, but you have to be selective in the ways and what about you're getting on Julius. If he really just went at Julius hard all the time about certain things, I think Julius would get surly. But I don't know. I don't know. I have a hard time seeing that Thibs talks to everybody else about their deficiencies and doesn't say something to Julius. But I also see that maybe he doesn't because, listen, this is my golden goose. This is one of my golden geese on the team. I don't want to fuck with him. He can fuck with Brunson like that because Brunson's been fucked with like that his whole life by his own dad. Mm-hmm. Okay, but I just think, listen, man, you coach everybody differently, and while you're going to treat everyone fairly, that doesn't mean you're going to treat everyone the same. And certain stars, you just got to let them. I think he realizes that Julius is a guy. I have to give him a little leeway for him to be his best, and I think that's what we're seeing. And I think that philosophy with Julius is proving out to be a good philosophy this year. Now, we hope he can curtail that dribbling thing. And Jesus, man, please do it. When it comes time for the postseason, please figure that out. Because it's clear that the other teams,
everyone in the league knows it.
When Julius gets the ball, it's free for all. It's time to party. So, he's got to see that. He's got to know that, Nick. It's not rocket science, dude. I'm sorry, but he's a grown-ass man. He's an intelligent human being. These are things he should understand. No one should have to say this to him. I hope somebody does. I wish somebody would, but no one should have to say it. Dude.
I think that all of those things that you said are valid as far as how you have to coach different guys, differently. And the fact that Julius is probably a guy that you have to handle, not exactly with kid gloves, but you got to massage that relationship all the time. All that being said, I do think that Thibs could look at him and just simply say, hey, Julius, when you get a rebound, give it up to one of the guards and get it back.
Yeah.
One's saying either no one's saying that to him, or when they say that to him, he's saying fuck you and just continuing to do that. And if that's the case, and as much as it happens, I don't understand. I can't understand. I don't understand how Brunson isn't saying it to him. I don't understand how everybody's not saying it to him, or just when he gets the ball, hey, get it back. You're going to get it back you're still going to get the ball back, probably in a more advantageous position, and you're still going to get your points. I don't think Julius cares about the numbers like that. I just think that he thinks he's good at it, and I'm telling you, if you were to ask Thibs about this right now, he'd be like, "No, I think Julius is pretty good at making plays for his team."
He's not going to rip Julius publicly.
No, not publicly. No, I think that if you were to ask Thibs privately right now, he would say. I think that Julius is, he makes good decisions and he's good at initiating for his other teammates. And when he gets a rebound, I want him to push it. I want him to go.
And I believe that's all true, Nick. I don't disagree with any of that. I believe he feels that way. I think he would also say, I want Julius to push it when he can. But I also want Julius, when he sees the defense getting close, to give it up.
I don't think he would say that, because I think if he felt that way, then Julius would have somewhat curtailed or understood that over the last few years. And as much as he's grown in other ways, he hasn't grown that way at all. I don't want to get this in. I definitely don't want this to be about Julius bashing, but it's just that one thing. And it's just really frustrating. It's like, to me,
I think he has grown that way, Nick. He's not as bad. Yes, he was worse last year. He's gotten worse progressively this season. But early on in the season, especially, he wasn't doing it as much. For some reason, in the last 10 games, which we've been winning, he's been doing it more. I don't know why. But he was worse. He was worse with this last year, Nick. He definitely was. He was worse.
I think he's gotten better in the half court, giving it up a little bit quicker. I think when it comes to grabbing a rebound and dribbling up the floor, I think he does that just as much, if not more, than always.
I'm talking about the cumulative.
Right. I'm talking specifically about that. He's definitely gotten better in the half court. And sometimes he does hold the ball a little bit longer to step through that double team. And that's what allows that guy on the opposite corner to be wide open. Whereas if he gives it up a little bit earlier before that guy commits, that guy is not as wide open. And I can understand why that's a delicate balance for him. him dribbling the ball up the floor, especially at end of quarter situations, like where, end of quarter situations. And if we're going to talk about end of quarter situations, we got to talk about your boy, Deuce, where he decides to walk it up with 8 seconds left and then give it to Julius 45 feet away from the basket with 4 seconds left, which it's like, do we have a worse scenario, with our Knicks than Julius 45 seconds holding the ball, stand still? No, come on. I'm 45 feet away with a few seconds. I mean, but no, I just think that I'm telling you, I just don't. It's like it's very similar to me as the technical free throws, which you just always said you never understood that, and then we actually read an article that said that Thibs doesn't care. He lets them figure it out on the floor. That's fucking stupid. And when it comes to this, when it comes to Julius dribbling the ball up the floor, I think continuing to allow him to do that, whether you're a guard on our team, the coach, or Julius, that's fucking stupid. We got to get away from that. I hope somebody, I just hope it gets through to him and everybody else at some point before the playoffs.
Yeah, I hope so, because against teams like Miami and stuff, oh my God, that's going to be a friggin' nightmare.
The free for all. Josh Hart, he missed the game against the Raptors, and then he came back against the Nets, and he didn't have a very good game for about like the first 3.5 quarters.
Mm-hmm.
Then at the end, you see exactly why Thibs trusts this guy and why he's at the game in the game during crunch time. He has that huge block plus save that we just detailed. And then he's got that tough bucket off the pass from Julius where he goes in, kind of double clutches and puts it right off the glass. I thought that should have been an and one. He got fouled as well. Mm-hmm. Josh Hart, he continues to show the little things that he does so well. There's times where his shooting can be a problem, his unwillingness to shoot. And there's times where he just seems a little bit like just out of sorts on offense. I think that he works better with that first unit than he does with the second unit because he needs other guys with gravity on the floor to be able to get him the ball where he's either wide open or attacking a closeout. But it was good to see him bounce back and make those big plays down the stretch last night.
Yeah, I mean, look, man, I think a lot of people, Josh Hart rewards Thibs for his confidence in him and willingness to stick with him. I think a lot of people just basketball is a game that you cannot stifle the creativity and the confidence of certain players. You got to give them rope. You got to give them rope and, let them figure it out, either figure it out and look good or figure it out and basically push themselves back to the bench. But as a coach, it's very difficult, man. It's a very, very, I think, difficult game to coach as well as obviously officiate, because there's so much ability going on the court and so forth. It's, but I think Thibs gives these guys space, and there's certain guys he trusts for obvious reasons, and they're rewarding his trust. And I like that.
Yeah, the one negative from the game against the Raptors was your boy Isaiah Hartenstein did go down. It's a foot, ankle, Achilles. I've heard a few different reports. I think the Achilles is what they're saying is the issue over on the left side. He went down. That gave your boy Precious a chance to really show what he's got. And did he have a game? He had 18 points. He had 11 rebounds against his old team. The best game that he's had since becoming a Knick. And then last night in reserve duty, he had 6 points, 9 rebounds against the Nets. Precious showing us a little something. And then with with Isaiah Hart being down, we also were able to see our guy Jericho Sims get put back into the starting lineup, 4 big blocks in the first quarter. And overall, he handled himself well throughout the game.
I was very impressed with Jericho. I think that's one of the best games I've ever seen Jericho play. Just as far as activity, his movement. I actually even saw after one basket, somebody said something to him on the team on the way up court, and I actually think I saw half a smile, which was amazing. That you just don't usually see a happy reaction from Sims.
That was after Julius screamed at him, "Go up." Because Julius passed the ball to him, and he almost seemed like he didn't know what to do. And he was right next to the basket. Julius was like, "Go up," and he just jumped up and laid the ball up. I mean,
he's right there. I mean, the guy's got incredible athletic ability. He seems to sometimes he can't stop himself from jumping. He just jumps. He jumps.
He jumps for the oop before he even sees that anybody's going to throw up, and he ends up catching the oop down here by his waist.
Right. I half the time expect to see him as he's running a court just to jump in the air at midcourt because he just can't help himself sometimes. He's like a human pogo stick. But he's I like Jericho. He's playing well. I think the difference last night was the headband, keeping the hair back so he can see everything clearly.
Right, right. He wasn't so sideshow Bob. He had a little bit, a little bit more bounce to him. And it's what's interesting is moving forward. Let's say that we stand pat and we don't add any bigs at the deadline.
Mm-hmm.
I think Precious has played a little bit better here recently, but then I watched last night's game and I'm thinking to myself, should he be getting some more of these backup 5 minutes instead of Precious once,
Mm.
Hartenstein is back healthy. So that's something to look at moving forward. It seems like Thibs has a lot of faith in this guy, but then Precious comes in and all of a sudden he's nailed to the bench. So, it'll be interesting to see how that plays out.
But you know what, Nick? I think a guy like Precious comes in. Thibs gives him consistent minutes for a couple of weeks because he's letting Precious, sink or swim.
He
You've
ain't doing
got
that
to
with
give him time
Malachi
to sink or
Flynn.
swim.
He ain't doing that with Evil Ragu.
No, but we're too deep at that position. Malachi Flynn is like third, fourth down. Precious, if he can really come up, he'll be that second guy behind Hartenstein. And we got to see what he's got. Now we've seen a little bit what he's got. He's pretty good. But we've also seen Jericho come back. I think it's going to be a battle for those second team minutes between Precious and Jericho. I like that battle.
Yeah. I mean, I tend to think that if I he feels like Precious, he wants Precious to be the backup, and I don't think he's just giving him minutes just so he can showcase himself and he can see whether or not he can, be a part of the rotation. Because if that's the case, then I would say it's not like McBride has been such a world beater that like it's like okay, we can't see if this guy Malachi Flynn could be just as good at or better, and he does seem to have more of a handle than him. So. I would just I don't to me the fact that Precious jumped in front of Sims as easily and as immediately as he did, but then Flynn can't get any burn behind McBride, it makes me feel like he has a little bit more of a plan of having this guy in the rotation than Sims in the long run.
Maybe, but I mean, listen, McBride is Thibs' guy for one simple reason: defense, 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 defense. He knows he plays great D. I'm sure he's watched umpteen amounts of tape of evil Ragu, and he's not as good a defender, not even close. Okay, so I think McBride is under. You want him to do well on the offensive end, and he does okay. I think he's serviceable. Unless he's turning the ball over, he's serviceable. But I think defensively, he's better than Brunson. He's better than Evil Guy. He's better than any of these guys. So he gets to run, he gets to burn. And I think one of the big things about this guy McBride that I see, Nick, dude, watch him next time he's running down the court. He is another one of those guys on the Anunoby tip where he's got incredibly long arms, Nick, incredibly long arms. And these are the two traits that we always talk about with basketball players. Certain basketball players are better when they have incredibly long arms and incredibly large hands. I saw McBride at one point yesterday. The ref wanted the ball, and McBride just gave the guy the ball like this, palming it in one hand. You'd never see a lot of people do that.
Not a lot of guards. Brunson is another guy who I see do that very often as well.
Right, but I think McBride's hands are even bigger, and he
they are.
Yeah, but this is part and parcel to his defensive ability. Is that he does that, and of course his overall effort. I think. Listen, I don't think it's hard to understand why he's getting a lot of those backup guard minutes, and Thibs is slow to let somebody else take some of those minutes. It's because of his defense. He wants him on there on that second unit for his defense.
His defense is great. And you would think if you're a point guard and you have big hands that you would be good at dribbling a basketball. He can't dribble. He can't dribble, man.
I wouldn't say he can't dribble. I would say that he's not as good as some other people, but you get stripped all the time, Nick.
As far as no, it's not just that he gets stripped. It's the fact that whenever he either gets stripped or whenever he gets in traffic, he picks up his dribble because he's not confident in being able to dribble through traffic and keep his dribble alive. On NBA, as if we're talking about NBA point guards, he can't dribble. I mean, yeah, is he a much better dribbler than me? Sure. Is he a much better dribbler than some power forwards in the league and centers? Sure. But as far as NBA guards, his handle is extremely loose I've never ever see him like cross a guy up or just beat a guy off the dribble. I've seen him get to the rim sometimes. It's typically off of motion. And I've also seen him get stripped a lot. And I've seen him pick up his dribble or just lose the ball a lot. He's got to become a better dribbler. I think it's the thing that's stopping. It's the whole thing that's stopping his game right now. That's the biggest deficiency in his game. And with the way he's shooting the ball, he's got that little pull up midi that he's hitting. He's hitting threes at a high clip. When he actually gets all the way to the rim, I mean, we're seeing this guy catch tap dunks. I mean, he's athletic, long arms, all those things. It's the one thing that's holding him back is how loosey goosey his handle is. And if he's going to be a guy who's 6 feet tall and play in the NBA, he's going to have a tight handle. So would really like to see him work on that. It's not going to get better during the season right now. It's not going to get so much better, but it's something that he really needs to work on in the offseason and get better at. And it's what is holding our second unit back right now. The second unit, when the offense is in, it still looks kind of shaky. Your boy Grimes is bad shaky. You never know what you're going to get from that cat, but it's whatever it is, it's never in abundance. That's for sure.
Well, just like with the starting unit and everything, I think a lot of those things are in flux. That second unit's definitely trying to figure it out. All of that said, I'm down with McBride. I'm with Team Deuce, baby. Let's go.
I know Deuce is your guy, and listen. I want him to succeed. I get very, very frustrated with the lack of handle. It's hard for me to understand how you get to this level of playing basketball and know that you're going to be a guy who's going to be 6 feet tall and you don't have a tight handle. I don't get that. But hopefully he can tighten that up. We need the second unit to be a little bit better. Ragu has been solid, typical Ragu these last few games, continues to fill it up, continues to play solid defense, get out in the passing lanes and make things happen. Been a little bit loosey-goosey with the ball, but hopefully that all tightens up for him and the entire squad. One thing I wanted to talk about, man, is it must suck to be a Nets fan. I don't really know any Nets fans. I know people who used to be New Jersey Nets fans, and now they've kind of just like fallen off or just become Knicks fans. I don't really know any of them, but clearly they exist out there, and it's got to be a shitty existence because the New Jersey, the Brooklyn Nets. I mean, it's such a joke. Their entire just atmosphere in that stadium. They play the music super loud. They try to play like Biggie and Jay-Z and Fabulous and shit because they're so Brooklyn. And it ends up being, our home away from home, like I said before. You hear "Let's Go Knicks" chants. You got your boy Mikal Bridges. He's after the game, he looked sad, like somebody,
Mm-hmm.
like somebody, stole his dog or something. The guy he was crushed. He was like, yo, man, like, it's not nice to hear these guys talking about, chanting in our home stadium and da 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 da. You got to know if you go there, it's never going to be like the Knicks. No atmosphere in the entire league, no fan base in the entire league is like that. And it's not even like being a Mets fan, I kind of understand, the Yankees being over there and us kind of always being the little brother, but it's not even like that. It's even worse than that. They have no history. I think before long, they're going to have to move out of Brooklyn. They're going to have to move. They're going to be the Nashville Nets or something like that. And I'm telling you, man, it's got to suck to be a Nets fan.
But they still get attendance there, Nick, not just on the Knick games. And
that's only because Knick games are so expensive. And cats
right,
are like,
okay.
I'm trying to watch a basketball game.
Okay, but they get some attendance there. People cheer for them, believe it or not, when it's not the Knicks there. So it's never going to be like the Garden. It's not. I mean, we have too much history there and all that. But hey, it is what it is. I did hear something funny. I thought about that. Some people say that one of the other teams that's seriously going to try to get Donovan Mitchell, maybe after this season, is the Nets. And I got to think, man, a guy like Donovan Mitchell. Oh, I was listening to Evan Roberts. And he was talking about it, and he was saying how much he'd love to get Donovan Mitchell because he's a Brooklyn Nets fan. And I got to think, man, if Donovan Mitchell somehow gets shipped to the Brooklyn Nets, that dude is going to be so bummed.
Purgatory.
He's not going to be happy. Yeah, well, he's grown up his whole life as a Knicks fan.
Yeah.
He doesn't want to play for the Brooklyn Nets. And listen, I don't root for the Nets, obviously. I grew up my life as a Knicks fan, but I did grow up in Brooklyn. So I'm as Brooklyn. You don't know anybody more Brooklyn than me, correct? That said, the Brooklyn Net fans, I mean, I have some friends, a lot of my friends obviously still live in Brooklyn, and they They go to Brooklyn Nets games sometimes. Yeah, I'm talking about you, Lynn Ferguson. They go to Brooklyn Net games sometimes, and I just hope they're cheering. I mean, I think they're going there just to watch ball. But if they go to Nets Knicks, and I find out that they're cheering for the Nets, after I've known them all their life to be Knicks fans, they might have to be cut off. That's a warning.
You heard that, Ferg. You heard that. This week, we have the Nuggets and then the Heat. Two big games back to back. The Nuggets, I'm really hoping that Hartenstein is going to be better back for that game because
Yeah.
going up against Joker without him is going to. I don't want to see Sims have to guard Joker because
No.
I don't want to see that. I'm interested to see if we switch Julius onto him some because I think that Julius, I feel like almost does better against like the guys who are a little bit bigger than him as opposed to the guys that can handle a little bit more and are a little bit quicker than him because he's so strong that you're not going to be able to just like bully him. And then a guy like Joker, I think he's quick enough to get up in him. But at the end of the day, nobody stops Joker. Joker's going to do it. He's a walking triple double. He's going to do his thing. We just got to try to contain him. That'll be a tough one. The Heat recently, they acquired your boy Scary Terry from the Charlotte Hornets. Terry Rozier goes to the Heat. The one team I didn't want to see him go to. He seems like he's perfect for their entire, Heat culture, as they say, and that guy can fill it up. So that'll be something that we're going to have to deal with a few more times this year, and maybe again come the early summer.
Yeah, no, that's not a good thing for us with him going to Miami. But that said, I still think we'll make our noise come playoff time. And listen, Scary Terry's good. It's not like I wanted him on the Knicks, so I don't care about that. And we're gonna see how that all meshes because I'm not sure if his defense will necessarily measure up to Spo's standards. Okay, so I don't know how
Sure.
that's going to work. So that'll be interesting to see. But I think the rest of the season is going to be interesting. Hell, Saturday night's going to be very interesting, or Saturday afternoon is going to be very interesting against them, against these Heat, because it's interesting, Nick, because as much as we are all pumped up with the Knicks now, 10-2, blah blah blah, they lose these next two games, and people are going to be like, the sky is falling. People are going to be very upset. Oh, we suck against playoff teams, and la da da, la da da. So you take everything with a grain of salt and you just keep it moving. That's all you can do.
Yeah, that last thing you said, I do think it makes me look at these games with a little bit more emphasis because, I would like to see us beat some of the better teams in the league.
Yes.
We take care of business against the lower half of the league. It would be good to see us get some wins against some better teams. And since we've got OG, we have a couple of those good signature wins.
Mm-hmm.
We have the game against the Timberwolves. We have the game against the 76ers. So let's go out and let's get another one of those. Let's go ahead and get two. If we can split these two 1-1, that'd be great. If we can get two, I'll be ecstatic. Now with Scary Terry coming to Miami, they ship out Kyle Lowry to the Charlotte Hornets, and the Charlotte Hornets supposedly they say that they're not going to buy him out. Many people think that they're just, posturing, and he will end up being bought out before the deadline. Supposedly, your boy Thibs really likes Lowry. If we could not give up anything and we could get him on the buyout, I mean, Thibs loves Lowry. How you feel about bringing in your boy Nicki Minaj size?
Nicki Minaj size. I don't love him, but frankly, after seeing how he played against us last year in the playoffs and watching him, this guy still got something left. If we can get him after the buyout, meaning we get him on the cheap, then I think he's worth it. I think he's owed too much money. I don't want to just take him and that salary right now, because I think he's got 2 years. I think he's got this year and next season.
The big thing is that I don't want to give up anything for him. I don't want to give up any assets for him. But if we can, like you said, get him on the buyout, yes, then I think we have I'm not sure. We have some sort of exception. I want to say mid-level exception, but I could be wrong on that, where we would be able to sign him basically for like the league minimum for the remainder of the season. And just like you said, with what he did against us in the playoffs last year, that guy is annoying, man. And he's the type of guy that you hate to have against you, but you would love to have on your team. If we could have him and we're not super, I don't, that can't be the only move. Whatever moves that we make, if we make those moves, and then in addition to that, we can add him via buyout, I'm with that.
But what do you mean? Who else? If you bring in Lowry, you're not bringing in DeJounte Murray. You're not bringing in Malcolm Brogdon, any of these guys. If you're bringing
No,
in
I think that
Lowry, you're only bringing in maybe a backup big.
no, I think that no. So this is what I'm saying is that I think that you bring in best case scenario. We're bringing DeJounte, right? We got DeJounte, and we get some backup big somewhere. And then if he's still on the buyout market and he's willing to come and he's willing to play, then I say, okay, come on over, Malachi Flynn, you're cut, and you have him being a guy where he's basically like your third point guard. I mean, the thing is that I don't think Kyle Lowry's at the point of his career where he's like, I need to play 20 minutes a game.
Right.
And especially specifically even in the series against the Knicks, but throughout the entire playoffs last year, they were very strategic with where they used him. And there'd be some games where he'd barely play in the game because that's just how the game was going. So if he is going to be with the Knicks at that role and he's going to win one or two playoff games for us by coming in and, doing this type of shit that he did to us where he's getting just his rebounds were killing us last year, or just being there and getting a strip, and he seems to always hit big shots. If my thing is that I like him as break glass in case of, but I don't like him as we need to rely on him.
So you don't so if you're in your best case scenario, if we bring him in, then in your case, McBride, we just don't see no more about McBride. We don't see McBride no more this season.
Yeah. If you brought in both of them, yeah. I mean, I'm sorry, but a 6 foot spot up shooter, the 3-and-D guy, is not. I'm sorry if he's playing 15. If he's playing McBride, that is, if McBride is playing 15 minutes per game in the playoffs, we got a serious problem. We got a serious problem.
There's no way he's going to play 15 minutes a game. That means what's his name's only playing 33 minutes a game. He's going to play this guy 36, 37 minutes a game no matter what.
Fair.
Okay, but I'm not as down on McBride as you are. I think he will surprise you by the end of the season, and come playoff time, you will be standing up screaming Deuce.
I love Deuce. I think that he will not surprise me with his ability to shoot. He will not surprise me with his ability to defend. If maybe he's got the dribble up app like my kid, and he's at home working on his handle right now. If I see him make a couple slick moves when it comes to dribbling the ball, then I will be surprised. I just don't see that happening in the middle of a season, and that's my only gripe with him. But it's such an important part of what he does at his position and at his size.
Right. I hear
you. Anyway, moving on to etc. One of your favorite players in the NBA, Joel Embiid, he welcomed your boy Wemby to the NBA with a 70-piece earlier this week. Wow. 70 points, 18 rebounds, 5 assists, 24 of 41 from the field, 1 of 2 from behind the arc. 70 points with only 1 made 3 is crazy. And for the season, he's averaging 36, 12, and 6, in addition to 2 blocks. I know that Embiid has never been a player that you've been particularly fond of, but he's having another great season after an MVP campaign last year. How are we feeling about that performance, and how are you feeling about Embiid overall?
It's an amazing performance, Nick. I've never told you that I thought Embiid wasn't a good player. Very good player. I just don't, I'm not fond of the guy, his act. I don't know why. Just something about him rubs me the wrong way. But he's an amazing player. And that was an amazing scoring output. He's having another phenomenal season. I don't want him on the Knicks. Frankly, I don't want him on the Knicks no matter what. And even when people talk this trade foolishness, you'd have to give up so much to get him. I think it would be idiotic to get him with as much as we tried to build this team.
Wait, we could, just hypothetically, if we could just sign him right now, and we didn't have to give up anything for him, you wouldn't want him on the Knicks?
Of course, I'd want him then, Nick. I mean, if we didn't have to give, but that's not that can't happen unless
not right this second.
No, it can't happen. Right, and when it can happen, he'll be much older, and he'll probably have 1 arm, so he'll come to us. No, there's no way he can't. We can't get him for nothing, so we can't get him. But I'll also too, Nick. I think he's a hell of a player. Something about him, Nick. There's certain guys, man, who I just got a feeling about that they're not the winning type player. And something about him, I can't put my finger on it. I can't put it into words. I just don't feel like he's the finishing piece to a winning team. Now, I think they're actually right now second best team in the East. Okay, the Sixers. I
We're
think
better
they're
than
better.
them.
And well, I think we could possibly beat the Sixers. That's possible. I think it would be very tough for us to beat, say, the Celtics in a 7-game series. I think we could beat the 76ers. And I definitely think we could beat Milwaukee with everything they're going through. Okay. But I mean, listen, you can't take anything away from Embiid. He's a fantastic player, man, but besides the whole crying thing, I'm just not a big fan.
Fuck Kawhi. Yeah, no, that wasn't the best look. The whole crying after Kawhi hit that buzzer beater against them a couple seasons ago to get Toronto to the finals and eventually win the finals. I'm a little bit more fond of Embiid's game than you are, and especially some of the
No, again,
changes.
you're saying you're more fond of his game. I don't think he's got a bad game, Nick. He's a good
Well, I've
player.
heard you say
I just don't
before.
like him.
No, but I've heard you say before that, he shoots too much from the outside. I want my big man to be more of a guy. And that's one of the things that I feel like he has adjusted these past couple seasons.
Doing
The two
more.
biggest
He's doing
things,
more.
the two biggest things that I felt like were deficiencies in his game these past, or just as him, deficiencies within him as a player, is that he shot the ball too much from the outside and that
Mm-hmm.
he always gets hurt. And these last couple seasons, he's been more durable and
That's
he's
true.
played more like a traditional center, playing inside out. But still, that little pull-up jumper he has at about the foul line, I mean, that shit never misses.
Oh, yeah.
He like Brunson damn near with that shot. I mean, that shit's going in. And
He is.
I think he's a dynamic player. I don't think that they've done the best job of surrounding him with great teams. That whole trust the process thing. There's a lot of things that you could look at that and say, okay, this worked out, the process worked. And then there's a whole lot of other picks around there. The Markelle Fultz, the boy, your boy Ben Simmons, you saw his outfit last night. What do you think of his outfit, big guy?
The sweater was a joke, and I didn't even notice until he got up at a timeout. The genie pants? Come on, Haji. What are you doing, bro? No, come on. The genie pants I was totally out on. Ben Simmons, man, I'm sorry. What is his illness now? Is it the back again?
Yeah, he's got something in his lower back.
I didn't know if it was the back or maybe he's got like some sort of crowd anxiety. Didn't he have some anxiety or something?
He did, yes.
If you remember, Nick, I said to you years ago, this guy, he's not the guy. Okay?
Yeah,
he's not the guy. And I said, he has no inner toughness, man. He's soft. He's like jelly inside. Okay?
Yeah.
You can't depend on that guy. He's not a guy that you can depend on. Hey, another guy who I saw last night, who I've seen, who's a very good player, who a lot of people say, oh, the Knicks should get him, comes a little soft to me, is Bridges. Bridges is a very good player, Nick. Is he tough? Does he have the toughness that you want? I just, something about him doesn't exude toughness to me. He's a very good player. He dropped 36 on us last night, mind you, 30 in the first half. But I don't know if he brings that toughness, man, that tough edge. I don't know.
I don't see adding Bridges to the Knicks just for the simple fact that he's not a two guard. He's more of a three, and we already have that guy in OG. And I like what OG brings more than what Bridges brings, especially on the defensive end. I wouldn't say that I've never seen anything from Bridges to tell me that he's soft, other than maybe like the dancing with campaign, pregame when they were both on the Suns. That I didn't really care for that too much.
There you go.
Yeah, that's enough for me personally to say I don't want him as a Knick. But I like Bridges' game. I don't necessarily think he's soft. But I can kind of see where you're going there. When it comes to Ben Simmons, wouldn't you think that somebody in his camp would say, we don't need to be the most noticeable guy on the bench right now? And I'm sure
he tries to wear something and be seen all the time.
Listen, and we're old, okay? I'm old and you're ancient. So we don't know what these young kids do as far as fashion goes. But I'm sorry, somebody's got to explain to me who is it that sees him and is like, damn, yo, that outfit is fly right there, man. My man got the polka dot furry cardigan. I mean, it looked like he was having like a static issue, like he has no dryer sheets at the house when he had on that cardigan. And then, like you said, when he stepped up and he had on those pants, man, I was like, damn, like, yo. I mean, he just looks like such a clown. You and I were texting about it between the game. I don't understand. The thing that's so crazy is that when you do see this guy play, even without having a legitimate jump shot, he still impacts the game in so many ways. Now, is he a super max player like he's being paid? No.
No,
Is
no,
he even ever going to be an impactful player in the game moving forward? And
no.
I want to, say this very clearly. I have a lot of sympathy, though I might not personally understand for anybody dealing with any sort of mental health issues. I personally think when it comes to Ben Simmons, I'm not 100% sure that, he's dealing with some of the issues that some of the very afflicted do. I think some of it is just that he is just a mentally weak individual. And as I think that people that have health issues should have support and should have the ability to earn a living and do all those things. But I think that when it comes to professional sports, whether or not somebody has those types of issues is a big factor in whether or not they're going to be able to be successful in this business. And it would definitely affect how I look at, whether or not I want to employ that person and have them play on my team.
100%. I've thought that from the start, Nick. I told you years ago when they're coming up with these anxiety issues, and dude, that's all just an excuse, man. I'm sorry. I don't think he truly suffers from these mental health issues, but he might. I don't know.
We
Who
don't know.
knows?
We don't know.
I just don't think. I think regardless of the mental health issues, he's soft. He is
Right.
soft as butter in the summer. Okay, and he's not that guy, man. Dude, man, I don't want him anywhere near the Knicks. Okay, take a right turn on 34th Street and go straight for the East River. I don't want you. Get out of here.
Yeah. No, I definitely hear you on that. And then the big shocking news that came out yesterday was that Adrian Griffin was fired by the Milwaukee Bucks, fired while having the second best record in the NBA, and this being his first season as Bucks head coach. Then a few hours later, it was rumored, and now I don't think he's actually signed the contract, but it's pretty well reported around the league that Doc Rivers will be taking over and becoming the new head coach of the Bucks. What makes that interesting is that since the play-in, he has been a consultant for Adrian Griffin and the Bucks. So it sounds like maybe his consultation involved the fact that, this guy's not the guy and I'm the guy, which I saw Jamal Crawford talking about that last night and saying that, that's a bit of a sticky situation there and how that all played out. But what do you think about the Bucks getting rid of their coach and showing him the door a couple months into the season when they have the second best record in the entire NBA?
Yeah, like I said, that situation over there is a bit of a disaster. I don't know where it's going to go from here. I wouldn't wager a lot of money on it being successful. I'm a little distressed that it can go so wrong. Clearly, this is all rubber stamped by Giannis. I think the whole situation with Doc Rivers is a little shady in that, dude, if I bring you in to be a consultant and say I'm Adrian Griffin and you're consulting with me, giving me your ideas and all that, and then Adrian Griffin, I turn around one morning, I show up one morning and, my keys don't work in the lock. And all of a sudden I'm standing out there outside like this. And here comes Doc Rivers getting out of his Benz and his key works in the lock. And he goes in, shuts the door and waves at me and walks away. I'm like, what the? I'm telling you, I don't get it, man. What just happened here? That seems really shaky, Doc. I don't know, bro. I mean, dude, you hired to be the consultant. That's like, yo, you're my marriage counselor with me and my wife. I come home one day, my wife's gone, and I'm getting pictures of you and the wife chilling on the beach in Costa Rica. What's going on?
Yeah, man, that is a perfect analogy. I was gonna say you come home and he's sitting in your chair, but no. But yeah,
No,
man.
then it just goes to the fist.
Yeah, man. Very, very, very shady situation, the way that all played out. And it'll be
Right.
interesting to see how that plays out moving forward. What is coming out of Bucks camp is that the players really weren't super fond of him. The fact that the organization kind of looked at this as like a transition year because they didn't know that they were going to be able to get Dame. And then once they got Dame, had they had Dame already, they wouldn't have gotten a rookie head coach. I feel bad for this guy though,
Yeah.
just because this is his 14th interview. He gets a chance. His team, results wise, is doing well. You almost want to see this guy finish out the season and see how it goes. You might have a diamond in the rough here, but
Right.
you decide to bring in a guy, Doc Rivers, who is still getting credit for that championship he won a real long time ago when
Oh,
he had
hey.
right 08, and he had the first big three ever, really, like where they just assembled the parts. He had Thibs as an assistant coach. And since then, he's blown multiple like 3-1, 2-1 leads and stuff like that, and hasn't, won a title since. Seems to be extremely old school and mundane on the offensive end, but he does typically seem to get his guys to really step it up on the defensive end. So we'll see how that plays out for the rest of the year. The Bucks are either going to look like geniuses or idiots.
Yeah, I don't see how. Listen, some people say I give them credit for ripping the Band-Aid off when they realize Adrian Griffin isn't the guy. But like you said, Nick, sometimes these things take a while to gel. And I think, I mean, I don't know. I don't think it makes a lot of sense. I know you say it doesn't make a difference if you're paying him. No, man, I don't believe that. Okay, I don't care if I'm a billionaire and I own the team. He's still whoever the owner of the team is. They're still paying Budenholzer. Okay, Budenholzer or whatever it is.
Budenholzer, yeah.
Right. They're still paying him. Now they're going to be spending another $5 million paying him. Let me tell you something. If you're a billionaire and you don't care about $5 million going out the door every year for nothing, you're not going to be a billionaire for long. Okay. So it doesn't make sense, Nick. I'm not saying you keep him around for that reason, but I just think it's very bad planning when you can't necessarily, I mean, listen, if the players don't like him, can someone step to him, the GM, the owner, somebody say to him and say, listen, Adrian, we have these concerns, blah, 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 blah. Let's work on them. Maybe they did that already. And the guy, maybe he was an asshole about that. Okay. And then I get it. If the guy's just being, we can't work with this guy, then that's it. And now you have to question your interview process. But I just saying, I don't think, I would be very upset if that was my team and we decided mid-season with the best record, let's fire the coach.
Right.
I would think like, what the hell is going on here? That's not a good look, man. It's not a good look.
It's not a good look. There is one example of that working, though, previously with your boy Blatt being fired with the Cavs having one of the best records and then bringing in Ty Lue.
True.
Now, with Adrian Griffin, I must say, we've played them a lot this season. We played them 4 times already this season. So in watching those games, there were a couple times, and I can't give specific examples right now off the top of my head, but there were a couple times in those games where I was like, yo, I don't really understand that move right there by him. And he's just got a look of bewilderment that it's not his fault. It's just the way he looks with the big eyes that kind of makes him seem like he's a little bit clueless. I don't know how fair that is, but it is just kind of his overall look. And as far as the owner and paying out these coaches, well, if that's the case, then I do think he doesn't care. I do think the owner doesn't care about the money. I do think it's pennies to him. And I think the thing that really accentuates that is the fact that now they're going after Doc Rivers. Doc ain't coming cheap, and Doc ain't signing nothing less than like 4-year deal either. So Doc, he's got too much clout to just come in and be like, yeah, I'll take a 1 year plus an option prove it deal for $4 million. Nah, Doc is going to be asking for top tier coach money. He's going to be asking for the typical length of a deal, which is 4 or 5 years. So we'll see how that plays out. You know what I mean? I think that's probably why it was reported last night that Doc was going to be the coach, but there hasn't been an actual deal announced, just because I think that, Doc is fighting to get all the bread he can. He feels like he's got him by the balls now.
Well, I heard a couple interesting things this morning. One, that when Dame came over, Terry Stotts came over too. Defensive guy, right? Used to be Dame's coach in Portland.
Mm-hmm.
They brought him in to work with Milwaukee on their defense. He left. I didn't know this. He left before the start of the season. Says he can't work with Adrian Griffin.
Yeah.
I don't know what happened there. But he said he can't work with him. And then one other line has nothing to do with anything we just spoke about, but I thought was hilarious that I heard Big Perk say when he was talking about Joe Mazzulla. Did you hear this line?
No.
He said about Joe Mazzulla, he said, if you took Joe Mazzulla's brain out of his head and put it in a bird, the bird would fly backwards. I thought that was fantastic. That's hilarious. Anyway, I'm sorry. We move on.
Your boy. That's the thing about Big Perk. He's good for a good line here every once in a while, man. I like Big Perk. Sometimes he takes he's got that slow drawl, but he comes prepared with a couple zingers every once in a while, and he supports the Knicks. So
we got to get Big Perk on the pod.
Yeah, Big Perk. If you out there, come on through. You'll be taken care of well over here.
I'm a former dog breeder too, Perk. We can talk dog breeding too.
There you go. You and Perk. The Detroit Lions. They are in the NFC Championship for the first time since 1991. Shout out to my Uncle Jerry, longtime Michigan and Detroit Lions fan. He's having the best football season of his life right now. Um, I have to, before we get into the Lions and then making it to the NFC Championship, I have to serve myself a little bit of humble pie. Shout out to my man Danny, who brought up in the chat. I think I've said this in a previous episode, but I'm going to go ahead and say it again. When Man Campbell first came out with that initial press conference and he was talking about biting kneecaps and all that other shit, I was like, listen, this is entertaining and it's funny, but NFL players are going to grow tired of that real quick, and this guy is going to be out. I definitely thought that he was not going to succeed in the D, but hey, I was wrong. He's proven me wrong. Your boy has gotten them to the NFC Championship, but not just gotten to the NFC Championship. I think that taking in Jared Goff, getting the most out of him, I think that really says something about the coaching and the fact that the confidence that they've instilled in this guy, and it seems like that entire team has just an identity that they get from their head coach. And it's bittersweet, as we've said before, watching Detroit do all this year, because it almost felt like the Jets were supposed to be that team this year. But now they're in the NFC Championship. I don't want to hear anything about what's going to happen this week when we talk any football, because, as you know, the people are very interested in hearing exactly what you think what's going to happen this week after what you did last week. But talk to me a little bit about Detroit, Man Campbell, and them getting to the game before the Super Bowl.
You got to be impressed. You got to love Jared Goff. The things he's doing, he's playing really well. That whole team is flying around the field. I mean, Nick, things can change so quick. When this guy came out with the kneecap speech and all that, yeah, there was some doubters out there. But I've always liked Dan Campbell, liked him as a player. He's an original tough guy, tight end. So you got to love that. I think the players respect that. They know he's for real. And it's obvious that he wasn't just, right, you kind of thought that was all kind of gimmicky when he started with that game, but that's literally who he is.
Really,
okay?
that dude.
He's really that guy. And I mean, things change so quickly, Nick. I think about Nick Sirianni for the Eagles. When he first came out, if you remember, his initial press conference, people were ripping him. He seemed
bad.
like a joke. It was
other than Gase, it was probably the
second worst one
I've ever seen.
Exactly. Yes. Not as bad as Gase.
Nothing as bad as Gase.
Right. Nothing as bad as Gase. But he was ripped. And then he's the man. He's the man about town. He gets his team to the Super Bowl. He's the man. Now, everyone's questioning this guy again. If he doesn't come out strong next year, he's out. Okay? So you know as well as I do, man, in the game of pro football especially, you don't have a lot of time to be right. And if you're wrong, the leash is very short. I do think Dan Campbell's a good coach, though. I think he's here to stay as far as a good coach in this league. I really do.
Oh, I mean, I think he's got close to a lifetime contract in Detroit. See, Philly, they will quickly turn on you. I mean, the fact that Doug Peterson was out, that blew my mind away. He had just won a Super Bowl recently, and all of a sudden he was out. So, and it's pretty well regarded around the league as a great coach, which is why he got another job so quickly, and he's done a decent job down there in Jacksonville, except for the last quarter of this season.
Well, think about it, Nick. Hold on, think about it. They got rid of your boy in KC.
Yeah, they got rid of Andy Reid.
Think about how pissed you'd be if your team got rid of Andy Reid. Are you kidding me, man?
But do you remember Andy Reid was getting killed at the end as far as the fact that he could never win the big one. He was on the wrong end of some huge comebacks. They had the second best quarterback in the league for all those years. I always thought that Andy Reid was a decent coach, but I remember like when he left the Eagles, there was a lot of people almost kind of, making Andy Reid a punchline.
Right, but you have to remember, too, the Eagles, where are they from? They're from Philly. Philly's the most hater city there is, man. Those people are just, they're vicious, man. They're vicious, I think they might be more vicious than New York City.
No, they are more vicious. They are more vicious.
In that way. And listen, Andy Reid can't win the big one. Obviously, whoever was spouting that couldn't be more wrong.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
So whoever's spouting that needs to go over there and sit down. Lie down, even. Okay? Because they're wrong. They don't know what the hell they're talking about. The guy's a good coach, and I would have been, I told you at the time, I don't understand why They're getting rid of this guy. I thought it was a very bad move then. I still think it was a bad move. I think that's been proven it was a bad move. And not to mention, doesn't he do a lot of like the GM duties there in KC? He does a lot of the drafting and all that. I
I
don't
know
know.
he's very involved in the process. I'm not
What I'm
exactly
saying, man, he's
sure
good
what
at
his
judging
responsibilities
talent
are.
too. You know what I mean? I
Yeah,
mean, he's good at
yeah.
judging and bringing up talent. I mean, look at what he's done with Mahomes. Need I say more? You know, there it is.
Speaking of Mahomes, he bests Josh Allen once again. They go into Buffalo, win 27-24. The Chiefs get back to the AFC Championship. Patrick Mahomes, is it his sixth or his seventh straight AFC Championship? It's his sixth straight AFC Championship. That guy, I mean, he doesn't even know what it's like to go home before the second to last game of the season. What I think is cool is we're now getting to see like the new version of Manning versus Brady. Those two
Mm.
teams, they're going to play a game in the regular season every season, and it's going to be a big game. And if we go off the last few years, it looks like it's likely they're going to be meeting up in the playoffs as well. But Josh Allen plays a very good game, but unfortunately, they weren't able to pull it out. Kicker misses, not a gimme, but he misses a kick in today's NFL that most kickers make. Lots of wind there. That ball just seemed to get caught by some wind and maybe be pointing the wrong direction and just, totally go wide right. Feel bad for the Buffalo people a little bit just because of the wide right again. Like that one guy crying in the stands is hilarious, but a great game, another classic matchup between these two teams and these two quarterbacks. And once again, the Chiefs move on.
Yeah, listen, that was a very good game. I don't understand the people trying to bash Josh Allen over the loss of that game. That's just stupid to me. I mean, guy played a good game. He played well enough to win. Defense has to at some point get a stop. And
Stephon
hey,
Diggs needs to catch a ball.
you know what I'm saying? That
That was
ball
a
was right in his hands, Nick. That
and
was
it was
a
a beautiful pass.
bucket.
And then
Okay.
right afterwards, he's putting his hand. He's like he's trying to tell Josh Allen some shit about oh, it was this or that. Catch the fucking ball.
Right. Stop it. Stop it. And, Josh Allen played a very good game. Josh Allen's a beast. He was more prone to mistakes early in the season. He cleaned that up the last quarter of the season. Okay. He did very well with that. I don't know who can criticize this guy for that. They're running the ball well. The only thing I would say is they should have kept running the ball as much as they were in the first half, in the second half, especially in the fourth quarter. But I get it. They were starting to feel a little desperate. Some people say, he could have made a dump off instead of that long throw that was dropped by Diggs. If he could have dropped it, there was a guy open in the middle there. Listen, I think sometimes, Nick, we get carried away. Even some of these analysts who played the game, who have played the game, we get carried away and saying, looking at the film and saying, when he threw it to this guy was wide open coming across the field, blah, blah, blah. Well, you know what, man? When you're standing there and you're that quarterback with this helmet on and this face mask on, you might not see that guy as clearly coming across, especially with 300-pound guys running at you from every direction. You just might not see that guy that we all see on film. It might be that simple. Or he thought this guy was open. He thought he could get on the ball, which he did. Oh, by the way, and he dropped the ball. The kicker misses the kick. Now, listen, a lot of wind, and it's not easy. A lot of people say, and I've heard a lot of people say that kicking is very, very similar to golfing, and that and I can tell you as a person who golfs very seldom and very badly that a lot of times. You can hit 5 shots in a row off the tee that go straight. You hit another one, and you feel like you swung the same exact way, same conditions, and that ball goes this way. Mm-hmm. Okay? So, I mean, look, I've never been a kicker. I don't know what it's like, but I will tell you this. A lot of people hate kickers and hate this and that and the other thing. I don't see anybody else on the football team stepping up to kick a field goal. Okay? No one else can do that like the kickers do. This guy tried to do it that day. It missed. It's a shame. You don't like to leave the game in the hands of or in the feet of your kicker, but when it's 40 some odd yards in that wind, we see what can happen. And there it is, man. That's the life of a kicker, and that's the life of a football team.
Yeah, I think you're a little bit more forgiving of kickers than I am, and then most are for sure. I think any criticism of Josh Allen is totally misguided, especially on that particular play. He made the throw. He made the toughest throw. That would have been the big. If it's one of those, and he's throwing it to not only his number one receiver, but one of the best receivers in the league by most accounts. So I don't understand why you would find any fault with Josh Allen in that instance. I just think that the kicker didn't make the kick, and you're playing against Patrick Mahomes. And when you're playing against Patrick Mahomes, more than often, he's going to come out on top and he's going to do it in dramatic fashion down the stretch. That's what the guy does. I mean, he does it to everybody. It's not like, Josh Allen is just he's put his team in a position to be good enough that they end up meeting them late in the playoffs, but nobody's found an answer for this guy,
Right.
that when it comes down to it. So it'll be interesting to see what Buffalo does as far as trying to get better. This year, they put more of an emphasis on the run. They got away
I have
from
a
it.
question for you.
Go.
So with Diggs, now they talk about the Jets getting a good receiver. Would you want Diggs?
No, I don't want
No
Diggs.
way.
I don't want Diggs
No
just
way.
because, and I like Diggs and I like his game, but I don't want him on the Jets. Oh man, well my boy Pat is a Minnesota fan, and I gave him and the Minnesota organization shit for getting rid of Diggs, and he till this day still comes back at me because they drafted Jefferson, and he's like, yeah, so we should have kept Diggs, right? We should have kept Diggs.
Right.
Fair. Okay. I might not have been totally accurate on that one, though Diggs did have amazing years, his first couple years in Buffalo. It just seems like the last
Yeah.
quarter of this season, and then, in the playoffs, he hasn't been the same player. And it seems like the relationship overall between him, Allen, and the organization is starting to deteriorate. And I just don't think that the Jets, where we are as an organization, can risk adding a guy with his temperament being brought into the
That's right.
locker.
Too much of that diva foolishness, man. I don't need that guy on my team.
You can
No
bring
way.
him into a winning culture. You can't bring him into a building culture, in my opinion.
No way. No way.
Ooh,
Agreed.
breaking news. Jim Harbaugh is officially, according to Adam Schefter, the new head coach of the Los Angeles Chargers. What do you think of
Wow.
that?
Wow. That is interesting. Big loss for Michigan, Big Blue. But I think Jim Harbaugh's an excellent coach, man. I mean, he's proven it on the college and the pro level. That has to help the San Diego Chargers. They have a decent defense. They've got a great young quarterback. Let's see what they do going forward. But that makes them a more formidable team, no doubt about it.
I love this move for the Chargers and for Harbaugh. I think that it makes total sense. I've seen some people say, like, oh, why don't you stay at Michigan? Everything's so great there. I think he's a mountaintop kind of guy. He's the type of guy where he's like, you know what? I want to succeed at the highest level. He's been
Mm-hmm.
to that mountaintop, but never been able to, scale over the peak. And he wants to get back there and he wants to do it, especially since his brother has done it as well. And his brother's got a good chance to do it again this year. So I always thought that he was going to come back to the NFL at some point. He's done everything he can at Michigan. And I think the Chargers are the perfect situation for him for two reasons. He always gets the most out of quarterbacks, and he's got a great young quarterback with all the talent that if he can level him up just a little bit, he's going to be one of the best in the league. And
Mm-hmm.
he typically is very good at getting the most out of his defenses. And
Mm-hmm.
there's not too many head coaches that you can say quarterback and defense are the two things that he does really well. And that team, they have a lot of great pieces on defense. They haven't been able to be the dominant D that many people would think they would be with those pieces. Now they have Harbaugh. I think it's the perfect move for them to try to get the most out of that team, while they still have, Mac and Bosa um and what's his name, the quarterback, all being young. I think that's
Herbert.
Herbert. Yeah, I think that's super important that they grab the bull by the horns right now, and there's no more win now coaches you can go get other than Harbaugh.
That's true. I think it'll be a good match, and I think it'll make that division that much more interesting, and the whole league. Frankly, I mean, Jim Harbaugh is an interesting guy with warts and all, but he's an interesting guy, and he's a good coach, man. That's going to be very interesting going forward. There's always things happening in the NFL.
Very tough division overall, but Harbaugh, he has won everywhere he's been,
Hmm.
and I expect the same in this next, task that he's taken on. And the guy's uber competitive. He doesn't like losing races back to the car against, his wife's friend's husband. So he's going to come in with that same intensity and quirkiness that he always has, and we'll be able to see if this guy can, if he can level up a team once again.
Yeah. We're going to see the khakis in LA.
All right, moving it on to our last segment, the segment that everybody is here to see, the big guy locks. The first weekend of the playoffs, you went 3-3, split the baby. Last weekend, a clean 4-0, clean sweep across the board. So everybody wants to know what the big guy has to say about the championship round. And in the first game, we're going to see the Chiefs, who are 3.5-point dogs at the Ravens. They go into Baltimore. They play against the inevitable MVP in Lamar Jackson. And you have Pat Mahomes on the other side. Chiefs, Ravens. Chiefs are plus 3.5. Who you got?
Well, Patrick Mahomes is incredible. Okay, he's a hell of a player. You know, you got the whole Kelsey's thing with Taylor, Swift in the stands, and his brother, topless, chugging beer,
I love that. It's great.
and cheering for his brother, Big Yeti. So I'm going with Baltimore in that game, man. I think Baltimore. First of all, I don't think anybody's going to have a real answer for this guy, Lamar.
Lamar.
Okay, Lamar is that dude this year, man. He can't. He's just that guy, and I think that I would take the Baltimore Ravens here. Main reason being, I think their defense is that defense this year. I think they're a better defense than KC's defense, and I think they're going to get the job done. I think that I honestly would lay 5. I
Wow.
think they're going to win by close to a touchdown or more. I really do.
Okay, so Ravens Chiefs, you got Ravens minus 3.5. And
Mm.
then in the other matchup of the weekend, we have those Detroit Lions going to San Francisco. And in that game, the hometown Lions are favored by 7. So Lions at 49ers, Niners minus 7. Who you got?
Niners minus 7. That's a tough one because, of course, that's you're giving 7 points there, but it is in San Francisco. I
Debo
do
50-50 to play. Just throwing
I
it out
know
there.
Debo's 50-50. He's going to play. I think I would lay the points there and take the Niners. I think the magic carpet ride for the Detroit Lions ends here. It's been a great run. They've played really well, but I don't think they're going to have enough to beat Frisco. I think CMC is going to go bananas, and I think I like laying the points here and taking Frisco.
Okay, so you have Niners minus 7 over the Lions. That's our big guy locks for the week. Catch us every week on YouTube or wherever you find your podcasts. Please follow, like, comment, and subscribe. And make sure you hit that notification button on all platforms. Really appreciate all the love. We try to stay as current as possible. So episodes will drop on Thursdays or Fridays, depending on the Knicks schedule. You can find us on all socials at he_did this to me. Love you, big guy.
Love you, kid.